Awesome. Thank you so much. So today is an important day for KlimaDAO. Um, we're launching Klima Infinity, and many of you have been either working on it or have been hearing about it. And I think there's been a steady growth of hype around it. And so we're excited to finally announce what Klima Infinity is and what it'll become. But first, I want to let you know today we're going to be focusing on Klima Infinity itself and explaining, how we see the Klima Infinity vision. But tomorrow we're going to be announcing partners that have launched with us, that have already taken a climate positive pledge through Klima Infinity. They're the start of many in the future. So we're going to be releasing those partners. I think we put up a teaser yesterday of them, but we're going to be discussing more about them and releasing content about them. And basically throughout the rest of this week and over the weekend, all the way until next week, we're going to be releasing Klima Infinity content, and additional partnerships. And we have a really big announcement, and we have a great partner next week to announce. They're going to be doing quite a bit of press on their side, and so we're really excited about that. So this is just to kick it off. So before we get into Klima Infinity itself, I wanted to talk about the background and purpose of why we needed to create Klima Infinity in the first place. And so as all of you know, KlimaDAO launched and had an amazing, exciting, immediate impact on the carbon markets. We collectively purchased a large number of carbon credits at a volume and speed that the market hadn't seen before, and that contributed to increasing the global floor price of carbon credits by 3x at its peak. And the world took notice. We were written up in, major publications like the Wall Street Journal and the trade publications. And, so it was a very exciting time. And we were able to build an initial liquidity base around our protocol. And, that was an amazing effort. But looking forward, we really had to ask ourselves, what's next? How can we build the utility case and really tap into the growing demand for the carbon market? And so what we needed to do was to essentially package an offering for organizations that are either currently sourcing carbon credits and retiring, and for companies that aren't currently doing it but know that they need to be doing it or feeling the pressure that they need to do it or want to do it. So how could we create a product for organizations to essentially interact with the carbon market in a better way, a more efficient way, in a more transparent way? And so that's how Klima Infinity came about. It came about by simply packaging and creating a product that sits on top of our core protocol mechanics and the liquid market that we'd all created together. So I want to talk about the opportunity. I think some of you may know how large the opportunity is. I think all of us feel how large the opportunity is. But I wanted to put some numbers to that and kind of define it a bit better. So among Fortune 500s, 30% have already started to make progress towards their environmental goals. And it's predicted by 2030, 79% of Fortune 500s are going to be carbon neutral. And, this is important for a few aspects, because, there's not only just the overall climate change narrative that's forcing that, but Fortune 500 employees as well when they're surveyed. 70% of American employees that work in a company that has 5,000 or more employees said that a company's sustainability plan impacts their decision to stay long term. That's 70%. It's a large number. And 30% have said that they already have left their company because of their lack of environmental commitment. And this really kind of just really speaks to this feeling that we all feel that this is important. And it's increasingly influencing our decisions and how we consume products and the companies that we work for. And so speaking of consumers, globally, 62% of consumers feel strongly about tackling air pollution, right? And I think all of us here would agree with that. 23% said they would be switching to climate positive brands. 42% said that they've changed their consumption habits because of their environmental outlook. 21% have encouraged others to switch to more environmentally sound products and climate positive brands. And so this is kind of early days, but when you look at 18 to 24-year-olds, they're 4 times as likely to switch to a climate positive brand over the 65 plus cohort. So not only are consumers today feeling the need to change, in particular the younger consumers are really representing that huge sea change. And what this is all saying is that consumers, it's no longer good enough to have a great product. You need to have a great product that is also environmentally sound or takes into account its environmental impact. But there's a whole sector of this, or a whole piece of this puzzle that has been really poorly studied, and that's small and medium enterprises. So small and medium enterprises globally represent 90% of all businesses and account for 50% of employment worldwide. And as I said, they're poorly studied, but where they have been, in the countries that they have been studied, depending on the country and its stage of growth, they can account for almost up to 50% of total emissions. And so small and medium businesses or enterprises traditionally have not had access to the carbon markets just because of how opaque they were or are, the lack of liquidity, et cetera. And so you actually had to create a specialized position, at least a single person that was focused sourcing and retiring carbon credits, or even a few people. And that was only really available to the largest companies. And so not only have SMEs, small and medium enterprises, have been poorly studied in terms of their carbon footprint, they've been severely underserved in terms of their access to the carbon market. And so that represents a huge opportunity for the voluntary carbon market generally and for KlimaDAO specifically, because of what we're doing to increase access to sourcing credits and retirement on-chain through Web3. Essentially, we make this a lot easier. And so that opens the door to these small and medium enterprises. And so that, sets the stage there. And I think it's important also to note from SMEs that, most SMEs are part of a supply chain of a large company at some point. And so as these large companies seek to reduce their footprint and to offset it, there's going to be increasing pressure on SMEs from their large customers, from their own employees, and from consumers. And so we're basically well positioned to help small and medium enterprises meet that demand. Yeah, I'm sure most of you have heard, or some of you have heard, that the carbon, in terms of the VCM, the voluntary carbon market, it's going to need to grow at least 15x by 2030 to meet the Paris climate goals. So what this all means is that the total addressable market is huge, and it'll be one of the largest industries since it reaches across all industries in order to mitigate a literal existential threat. And I think that's the important point here. We're at the beginning of a very large growing market, and we're well positioned. So with that said, quick outline of the opportunity that sits before us. I want to get into Klima Infinity and the initial presentation that we put together, that we've been presenting to partners, our initial launch partners. We're in a stage right now where we need to quickly iterate on Klima Infinity, and so it's important to us to essentially put together the offering and get it in front of as many potential partners as possible, and receive their feedback. And through that process, we've already begun to improve on the offering. But I wanted to walk us through the deck so that everyone here can see what it is we're currently offering it, and what it is that inspired our current launch partners to become climate positive through Klima Infinity. So Golan, if you can share your screen.
Yeah, so I guess we're having some technical difficulties, a bit of a boomer moment, but I think neither you nor I realized that this was a voice-only chat. So I'm rugged again.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that.
Rugged by voice chat.
Yeah, because if you were to move to the Fireside chat, there's a max cap of 99 people. So yeah.
Okay, so why don't we go in? How about we just post that link to the chat, and people can just pull it up.
Okay, sounds good. I'll do that in a moment.
Oh, exciting times.
Okay.
So exciting, man. Really, there are a lot of people telling me we have been waiting for this for very long. So really excited about this.
All right, so let's give a moment for everyone to get that link and pull it.
Hold on, I'm just gonna publish it as a PDF since the Google sheet now is open to edit. So maybe while we're waiting, if anyone's got any good dad jokes.
Good dad jokes. I'm pretty terrible at jokes. Anytime I try to think of a joke, I can never think of a good one.
I have very super lame jokes though. Yeah. You know what's the best? One of the best gift you can give for your girlfriend for Valentine's?
What's that?
Dictionary.
What?
Yeah. You know why?
Why?
Because she will give meaning to your life.
Oh.
Okay, shit. That's not funny at all. I try. I'm so sorry. I tried. Okay, that's really lame. I'm so sorry, guys. Yeah, sorry about that. I do my very best.
Yeah, I was hoping we could do the screen share here. But it's fine. Adapt and overcome. How we looking, Golan?
Okay, I'm about to drop it in the office hours Fireside chat. So just give me just some likes to make sure that everyone can see it and access it. Awesome. Okay, looks like we're ready to rock and roll. Sai, you want to take it away, and everyone can just follow through at the pace of Sai's soothing voice.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Please. Take it away.
Yes. So the first thing you'll notice is that we have the Klima Infinity brand, which I absolutely love. I think it's beautiful. And again, it's another testament to the team we've built here to be able to create such a strong brand for such an important product to KlimaDAO. So I hope you all enjoy that logo as much as I do. I think yeah, I mean, I really enjoy it. But going to the second slide, you can see that KlimaDAO has already had a large impact on the market. Some of these numbers, that the market is pretty volatile, and so some of these numbers are a bit out of sync with the market. But generally, overall, if you look, our market cap has hovered around 100 million. Our assets under management are currently around 100 million. The total liquidity we have in the market is just under 100 million. But I think it's important to understand that liquidity is a huge number in regards to the VCM itself. The total tons of carbon that we have in our treasury is just past 16 million, which is a huge accomplishment in 4 months. We have about 63,000 Klima holders, wallets, that have interacted with Klima, and our social media following across all the platforms has grown to over 115,000 people, which is huge. So Klima Infinity is an opt-in incentive program and a suite of tools to help organizations transparently and uphold their climate positive pledge. And what's important here is we're using Klima as the focus, the actual currency, Klima itself, as the focus to this program. Klima enables organizations to earn yield on carbon custody itself. Klima Infinity includes a climate dashboard, a climate pledge dashboard, so that organizations can transparently show the progress towards their pledge publicly. And we're also providing a superior way for tokenized retirement or carbon retirement. And of course, every Klima holder has governance participation in KlimaDAO itself and in the future direction of Klima. The next slide. As we all understand, it all starts with a pledge. Next slide. So the participation overview, at the high level overview for an organization, our entire goal is to make it easy for organizations to create and uphold their pledge. And so at a high level overview, this means an organization needs to determine its carbon footprint. We want to see organizations be climate positive by multiplying that footprint by 2 to 3x. Then they would use that footprint to calculate the amount of Klima they would need to hold to find parity with that footprint, and periodically convert a portion of that to a tokenized carbon asset itself, if they so desire, and retire it. From that, all that activity, their total carbon footprint, their tokenized carbon assets, their total retirement activity, as well as their total Klima holdings, will all be available in a public dashboard that we're launching in Q2, so that it becomes an interface for them to declare to the public not only their pledge, but their progress towards that pledge. Next slide. Benefits. So Klima itself is a yield-bearing carbon reserve currency with deep liquidity. And if for any of you that have interacted in the legacy VCM, you'll know that how big of a deal that is in terms of being able to not only source carbon credits, but understand their fair market price at any given moment, which just wasn't really possible in the market before. Through Klima, organizations are able to leverage their carbon holdings through Klima to offset their pledge, their offsetting needs today and into the future. And then, of course, as I discussed, we have the user-friendly dashboard so that they can publicly communicate that pledge and their progress towards it. More benefits, tokenized carbon retirement tool. As I mentioned, this is an important aspect for organizations to actually retire these offsets as part of their pledge. Voting rights in KlimaDAO, and as well as co-marketing opportunities. And so you'll see when we launch with our partners tomorrow, or when we announce our launch partners, we're helping to market on our side, and on their side, they're also helping to market Klima Infinity as part of their climate positive pledge. And so that's kind of a unique opportunity that we have with this product, is that not only do we want to publicize new partners, our partners want to publicize their participation in this program as well. Next slide. Tools to help you uphold your climate positive pledge. So this is where we get into the tools themselves. And so on the next slide, we see footprint growth versus Klima yield. And so this part is unique to tokenized carbon market itself. And the reason is because in the legacy market, there was only a few states that a carbon credit could exist in. It could be created, it could be sold, it could be held, and it can be retired. But through Klima itself, since Klima is a carbon backed reserve currency, if you hold Klima and you model it the right way, you can see that today you might source some tokenized carbon and retire it immediately. But you could also hold an amount of Klima, and if you model it correctly, you could see that Klima, by holding Klima to custody your carbon credits within the Klima treasury, you'd actually start to receive a yield over time, depending on the time frame. So, and that can act as a subsidy or even an offset to your future carbon cost. And again, this is unique to the tokenized carbon market, since we're able to leverage the power of DeFi itself to make this happen. So the idea here is that an organization performs some collection of activities, such as purchasing carbon credits and retiring them immediately, for example, so that they completely offset their carbon footprint at 1x. And then to be climate positive, they could purchase 2 to 3x their footprint in Klima and hold it. And then next year, based on that yield, their next year's cost for retirement should be lower, because they're participating early in the market and growing along with the carbon market itself, gaining a hedge not only on the price, but on the diversity of assets that are increasingly being taken into the Klima treasury. Going to the next slide, as I mentioned, in Q2, we're going to be launching a climate pledge dashboard, and we have some screenshots of that dashboard that is in development now, and we have some screenshots we'll be sharing. I'm not sure if we'll be sharing them today, but at some point over the next few days, we're going to be sharing those screenshots. It's looking great. But as I said, it contains an organization's pledge itself. We put the brand of the organization front and center so that they feel ownership over the dashboard itself. So it contains their pledge, their total carbon footprint, their total carbon assets that they hold. We call active assets. These are assets that could technically be sold so that they're active. The total amount of Klima they hold. Any NFTs that represent functional aspects within the carbon market itself. So these are NFTs that might have Klima or tokenized carbon bonded into them. So any of the NFTs that they hold in that wallet, as well as their retirement activity. So every time that wallet or wallets that are associated with the dashboard retires tokenized carbon, that activity is captured there as well. And that is all summed up against their pledge. And the idea here overall is that we believe the user experience in climate pledges for organizations has been pretty terrible to date. There just isn't really a good way for organizations to display their pledge and their activity towards it, or their participation and activity towards it. And when you look out, if you go to a company that has made a pledge today and you try to find what they've done exactly, there's some companies that have made a pretty page for it, but when you actually want to look at the activity that they've done, you inevitably end up at a PDF that's like 50 pages long. And so the user experience is pretty terrible. And so there's not a clear way for consumers, their employees, to really understand what an organization's pledge is and their activity towards that pledge over time. And so that's what we're looking to solve here with this. Overall, what we hope to see, or the vision that we see, is that a company's pledge dashboard will be as ubiquitous as a company's about page. Because we believe that there's the growing sentiment across employees and consumers, just frankly everyone, that is no longer good enough for companies to make a good product. They need to make a good product that also considers the environmental impact of its production. Next page. As I said, the retirement activity of organizations will also be tracked in this dashboard, and users will be able to simply click on a given retirement activity and drill down to the specific vintage, methodology, country, and history. And we have a lot of opportunities here in how we surface this information. You can imagine having views of a map so that you can see the impact an organization has had globally in terms of the projects that they've retired. We can see the projects and methodology in terms of vintage, which is the year that they were sourced or created. And so users will be able to drill down all the way to the exact impact that the organization is having as part of their pledge. And I think something that is important here is that not only is the user experience around pledges and showing retirement activity, not only is the experience not a good one today, but more importantly, the data isn't well structured around this either. And so when we want to better understand the impact that offsetting is having on the market, this will become a powerful way and a repository of data so that anyone can take the on-chain data, because again, all of this data is happening on-chain. can take this data and better model the impact, better model what the future looks like in terms of price, let's say. And it becomes an interesting way or an interesting set of data for people to create other interfaces on top of. But it starts with helping to structure that data. And that's what this dashboard product is also going to do. Next slide. Offsetting is an important piece of this entire puzzle, right? We're solving the sourcing of credits themselves, making that easier for organizations. But ultimately, what we want to see is organizations to retire credits or to finally offset and remove them from supply. And so we're launching very soon with a UI. So that makes it easy for users and organizations to do that. You literally enter in the type of asset that you want to retire, the quantity, and you hit retire. And all of that activity is captured on chain in a transparent way. And it is there so that you can display it within your dashboard itself. We anticipate that there's going to be providers that create reporting around on-chain data, so that they can, as part of corporate accountability reporting, et cetera. So we're going to have a UI to make that super simple. But looking forward, we're going to have the machine interface or the APIs available, so that software, you can imagine supply chain software, et cetera, can integrate directly into the retirement function itself. Next slide. So something that is unique to KlimaDAO and what we're offering is Klima itself is our governance token. And, this is unique to Web3 itself. Before Web3, it wasn't really possible for consumers of a service to also have direct ownership in that service, as well as to help govern or decide how it operates. In our case, the types of treasury assets that we bring, that we bond for within our treasury, the yield rate on Klima itself, how we incentivize various assets through our bonding capacity, and as well as the Klima Infinity program itself and how it operates. This is something that's unique to Web3 and something that we want to embrace moving forward. Next slide on co-marketing. As I said, we're in a unique position where not only do organizations want to use our product, but they want to market their use of that product as well. They want everyone to know that they are making a climate positive pledge and they're upholding that climate positive pledge. And so that works as to amplify our signal in terms of Klima Infinity. But what we have to offer is, 68,000 Twitter followers, 42,000 here on Discord, 4,000 Reddit followers. We have the popular Planet of the Climates podcast, which I'm sure most of you have heard at least one episode or more. I mean, I love that podcast. Collaborate with others in the refi space. That's what we have to offer on our side. But as you'll see next week, we have partners with large PR departments that will also help to amplify our message, since they feel it's important to not only be climate positive themselves, but to be a beacon for their industries. And so it's within the interest of all of our partners to market not just their climate positive pledge, but the Klima Infinity itself. And so that's Klima Infinity as it is today. This is the offer that we have met with several partners in order to secure them as launch partners for them to make a climate positive pledge. Now, what this has done is it's generated a bunch of feedback for us. And so some of the things that we've learned is that we have all these tools, and that's great, but many organizations just want to be told, like, what's the quick start? How do I get going today? And so that is some of the things that we've been working on, materials, and we'll be releasing these materials over this next week. So everything from a user guide to the importance of why an organization should be climate positive versus just carbon neutral. How we have a tool that we built that makes it easy for an organization to plug in their own numbers and predict how much Klima that they need to hold, say, on a yearly basis, and what impact that will have on their future costs of offsetting. And that really creates an important opportunity for organizations not only to create that pledge, but to ultimately participate early enough so that their total cost of offsetting, not just this year, but next year and over the next 10 years, they're able to leverage their yield in order to decrease that cost over time for themselves. And so to start with Klima Infinity, we have the decentralized app and infrastructure for orgs to better source carbon credits and leverage Klima for yield. We have a better experience to retire offsets in a transparent way, all on chain, where we have an initial set of educational material, including a quick start for organizations. So, it's literally a step 1, step 2, step 3 to become climate positive and leverage Web3 to do that. We have a modeling tool, as I said, for orgs to find parity between their footprint, offsetting, and yield. We have a set of preferred partners that we'll be announcing soon to help organizations to calculate their emissions themselves. And so these are self-service calculators that they can use, as well as we've lined up some preferred partners to help organizations that need help calculating that. And so that's, for most small and medium organizations, it's possible to calculate these emissions yourselves through these calculators, particularly if you're going to be multiplying that footprint by 2 or 3x to account for anything you might have missed. But for many organizations, particularly the larger ones, they typically need help to accurately calculate their footprint. And so we've lined up a few good preferred providers to help that we can refer organizations to help them with that. We have a group of highly skilled people in both carbon markets and DeFi to help our initial partners. At first, it's very important for us to work very closely with all of our new partners and to refine the offer itself and the tools that they need and capture that feedback. But over time, we're going to be integrating this experience into the dashboard itself. And so that means integrating the footprint calculators, the modeling that organizations need to understand how much Klima they need to hold and what that impact will be long term so that they can plug in their own variables to figure that out. Reporting on, specific types of reporting on types of retirement activity that comply with standards. Providing the interfaces to that data that the dashboard itself is going to be structuring. And so the start of that will happen with the dashboard in Q2 itself. And so what we see happening is that while we're going to be working closely with our partners initially, we're going to be taking what we learn and putting that implementing that into software so that we can scale our total impact to the market in a larger way, because that's what needs to happen in order to really serve our total addressable market. And as part of that, so another thing that's unique to Web3 is we need to figure out how to decentralize our sales force. And this is a challenge that's very unique to KlimaDAO itself, because not many DeFi or DAOs have a real world use case like we do. And so not only are we innovating in the carbon markets and DeFi itself and organizational structures through a DAO, we need to innovate as well in terms of how we address a real world use case, how we get Klima Infinity out to as many organizations as possible, because the opportunity is huge. And so it's about how do we decentralize the sales effort itself. So we plan to be releasing all of these materials as we improve on them. We'll be releasing updates. We want to figure out, none of this is solved. We have some good ideas, but this is a very important area, and one that is, we need some very good creative ideas to help figure out. But the idea is that we want to eventually enable anyone to be able to go to their own company and start the conversation around becoming climate positive within their company, as well as companies within people's networks. We receive a lot of interest from people with very big networks that want to sell Klima Infinity. We just have to come up with a way that anyone can sell Klima Infinity to their own company and companies within their networks. This is a grand undertaking in the face of a huge global challenge. And we stand at the beginning of a rapidly growing market to meet that challenge, particularly the carbon market. Again, we're literally standing in the face of an existential threat in terms of climate change. And we're well positioned as KlimaDAO to take leadership in this market and provide a strong solution and grow along with it. And so with all that said, I hope that all of you are as inspired as we are to meet this challenge. It's a big one. We're coming at it from a unique way. We are innovating along many different dimensions. But I hope that all of you are as excited as we are about Klima Infinity and the potential it holds in this huge, huge opportunity and growing market. So that's what I have for you. That's Klima Infinity.
Here.
All right.
Yeah, standing applause. And so we can start to get some other team members speaking and Q&A going. I'm also just going to drop an excerpt from the long form overview memo that we've been using to, I think, quite positive reception so far. Actually, any organization that we've shared this introduction to KlimaDAO and refi has not said no to us yet. So, we're still, in discussions to onboard them, but I guess that still counts as 100% batting average. Yeah, I'll take a look in the office hours Fireside chat. So you guys can take a look at how we're explaining it to these different organizations, let alone even individuals or small and medium businesses could participate as well. And Rakeman, sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you. Pass the mic back to you.
Yeah. So just to commemorate this moment today, there will be actually a POAP that I just dropped the link, so you guys can sign up for that POAP with crypto sign. get a special poet for this event to mark the launch of Klima Infinity. Really, really amazing efforts. It's a long time coming. The team, Little Apple, Sai, Golan has been working their asses off to really get this going. And I can't be more excited and proud to be, here kind of gracing the event of sorts or like hosting them. It's really, really amazing. The things that we've been talking about this has been like trying our very best to keep it tight-lipped about this as much as possible, but finally it's here and LFG, man, LFG. So do you guys want to do some Q&A?
Our fellow climates are asking if we can leak the latest design of the dashboard, or you want to hold on to that for what is the next installments of the saga of Klima Infinity's Genesis?
I'm not sure. I will hold off. I like to keep everyone on the hook. We still have a lot of things going on. Down the next few days, all the way to next week. There's a lot of things going to happen, and I don't know. You guys decide.
That's all right. Always keep your audience wanting more. But
so we have the marketing team, the co-marketing team has a content calendar that they've been working hard on, and they'll be releasing various information. Like I said, tomorrow releasing specific partners, their quote on how they see Klima Infinity, and why they believe it's important. It's a great group of initial partners. The partnership team and the DAO generally, the co-marketing team has done an amazing job lining those partners up. Again, this is a unique situation, and there's some parallels within SaaS that we're drawing on. But in a typical SaaS company, you're usually starting with quite a bit more structure. There's legal agreements, et cetera, and we're having to innovate as a DAO in a space with a real world use case. And we're 4 months in. I think if you were to look at any startup with similar metrics that we have in terms of number of contributors, or what we have in our reserves, the progress that we've made so far, I think you would consider us a fast-growing, very promising startup. But we do have the additional challenges and opportunities that working in a DAO presents. And so this is super exciting for us, and I think it's a very important product for the market. And so we're going to be releasing information over this next week. We have our partners tomorrow. We have a big partner that we're announcing next week. We have some information that will be dropping throughout that. And so I hope all of you here and others will be tuned into that, and the excitement will grow.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of hate right now for not leaking it. Everyone's hating on me right now.
Soon, don't worry. It's coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon. Soon,
yeah.
TM.
I mean, one thing I can talk about is, we're very focused on small and medium businesses right now, and we're talking to several large businesses as well, but it's important to understand that large businesses have a long sales cycle. For anyone that's worked in SaaS or, to any kind of B2B with large businesses, the sales cycles are typically 6 to 12 months or even longer. Whereas we also, we see a huge opportunity in small and medium businesses, mostly because they've been underserved in the past. But in terms of a product itself, they move faster. They give us direct feedback. And so this allows us to iterate faster on our product and on the offering. It gives us the insight we need to improve our educational materials, to figure out what tools these organizations will need in order to participate in their Climate Positive Pledge. And so that's very important. And so we're in talks with large companies. There's a huge interest there because we present a superior way for large organizations to source and retire credits, things that they're already doing. And so they understand the challenges there. They see what we're doing and they're like, wow, this is amazing. But it's a long sales cycle. Whereas for forward-looking brands and smaller companies, they know they need to be climate positive. Their employees, their consumers, they feel the trend themselves. I mean, again, small medium businesses are made of people like us, and they feel it just as much. And so, they haven't had the access to the carbon market before. And, so they're coming to us and they're saying, like, what do I do? Right? I love it. I want to do it. What do I do? And it's through that fast, rapid, interaction that we were able to get to the point we are now, and how we're going to be able to improve in a fast way. And as those larger company conversations come to fruition, we'll be even better positioned to service them in the long term. So do we want to open up some questions here?
Yeah,
I think we're kind of, it took an hour to get here. I apologize. It took so long, but I would love to take some initial questions for, the next.
Here. Let's bring up Danzi. Let's just do like one or two questions and then we call it off. Hi, Danzi.
Hey, Danzi.
Hey. Great presentation, guys. Super, super exciting. Just a super quick question. Other Web3 DAOs and protocols, how do we get involved with Infinity?
Yeah. So, I think Web3, I mean, I consider them in that SME group. I mean, it's obviously Web3, but, it's the same. You talk with us, we help you figure out your footprint. In a lot of ways, Web3 footprints are easier to calculate because all the activity is on chain. But for Web3 organizations, it's just like any other organization. You reach out to our partnerships team. We'll work with you to help you figure out the best ways to calculate your footprint. Like I said, we have a modeling tool that'll help you understand how much you should be retiring today to become carbon neutral versus how much Klima you should be buying to gain a hedge long term, and to offset your total cost next year. And so we have all that ready to go.
Cool. We'll basically just be able to interact at the contract level kind of thing, I'm guessing.
For calculation, yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
I guess maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, the calculations, and then because we already have the protocol I'm talking about, we already have a bunch of Klima, so I guess we would just have to basically just hit the button kind of thing.
Well, there'd be the retirement itself, so that you're carbon neutral, and then in Q2 when the dashboard comes on, it comes online, then you can really start to leverage that publicly.
Okay, right on. It's exciting. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Danzi.
Yep. Do we have any other questions? We have one more from Rez.
Well, hello there, guys.
Hello, GM, sir.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, Rez.
Hey. Bullish as always. Very cool presentation. I'm very excited for this. But on a details level, I'm really curious on, so are these customers you're onboarding going to be able to pick a kind of retirement profile we're looking at, or like what exactly are the specifics around what credits end up getting retired?
So for retirement, at first, it'll be retirement where you just select, say, BCT or USDC and how much you want to retire. You hit retire, and the contract will handle it. Long term, we want to allow for selective retirement, so that if you choose to, you can select specific vintages and projects to retire, as well as we're going to be we'll be growing the retirement interface to include all of the assets that Klima bonds with, and so it becomes a retirement aggregator.
Yeah. What I'm asking is specifically, like, if you are launching a dashboard at the same time, part of why companies have large procurement teams is kind of that they want to manage this reputational risk that comes with certain projects over others, and kind of finding what is this profile of credit that they are okay with retiring, especially if the name of the project ends up being associated with them. So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, we see the demand for that. Go ahead, Dylan.
No, I just was going to say that, with TCO2, I believe that functionality to retire specific carbon projects is already incorporated into their tool, and we want to do the same. We just we're waiting on them to finish their smart contract. So, a functionality we're already envisaging. How we like to think. So I think you're zeroing in on one leg of the troika so far, that is Klima Infinity, and that's the offset function. We consider that KlimaDAO wants to be like the Amazon everything store, or 1-inch offset aggregator of all quality tokenized carbon. So one thing we're also just discussing right now, also getting the community's feedback, is should we allow for users of our Infinity offset function to retire any carbon tokens, or should we have it be a type of vetting layer where our community, based on what Klimates accept into our treasury, then that will be linked into the offset function. And where we see this going is, although it's only going to launch with the possibility to retire certain carbon pool token types. So, for example, BCT to begin with. We're also planning to get MCO2 in there, and then, whichever tokens the community wants to introduce into the green black hole will be added later. And then we want to have any one of those be able to be redeemed or unwrapped for a specific carbon project, because, 100% agree with you, especially for larger corporates. It's already shown in the traditional markets that their ability to pick and choose specific carbon projects to align with, say, their supply chain or their customer base, and be able to, maximize the marketing exposure of that to cater to their target audiences. We want to not only allow that, but then feed that in automatically into their climate pledge dashboard. And this is where, when Sai talks about wanting to make the climate pledge dashboard as ubiquitous as an about page, even in our experience of dialoguing with some of these partners, some of them, they claim to have a carbon neutrality pledge, and you can't find what their footprint is or what actions they're taking on their website. Sometimes it's buried in, a long annual report of 100 pages. Sometimes it's reported by a third party, but not in the offsetting entities page. And, we want to increase transparency through the Climate Pledge dashboard, allow these organizations and everyone to be more accountable, but then also gamify it in a little bit. Maybe we could see with the climate pledge dashboard which projects are more popular among certain industries. It might be like a way to socialize about your sustainability, being able to relate with friends about which type of projects or geographies you support. So I guess long answer short, we're planning to do that. It won't be available on day one, but definitely in the works.
Yeah, especially, it's just, this interaction with, between systems. So, I am at least working under this assumption that a lot of companies, the reason why it's so difficult to figure out what exactly they're using with offsetting is that they don't, partially they don't want to risk being like associated with the projects later on. Since, you see this sometimes about like specific projects overestimating their carbon footprint or, that kind of PR. Projects just don't want to get linked back to that. So
but
yeah, I mirror that like accountability. I think it big picture super important. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I did. There's also sometimes we're also seeing the other side of it as well, where some of these companies, ESG or CSR teams, they like the carbon reference pool tokens because then they don't. It simplifies in a way their required due diligence, so they don't have to be worried about project risk. Let's say, fortune forbid one of these deforestation protection projects have some leakage, or there's even, let's say a fire, or even like you've seen over the last years with renewable energy credits, they just fall out of favor. It's by choosing to retire just the pooled carbon tokens. It's a way to get kind of instant sustainability credentials. Maybe if they decide, they want to support nature-based in a specific geography, then they go for MCO2. In the future, if they only want exposure to carbon removal projects, but not have to invest further in the due diligence, which projects to select, they might elect for C3's cited upcoming sequestration-based offset. So there's also that other side of it, that it makes it more accessible than, let's say you're at the mall and you have an array of options of products to choose from, and it takes you a while just to decide which you would like.
Yeah,
there's also the idea that sunshine is the best disinfectant, right? And, by making this whole process transparent, there's a multi-front campaign in the industry. For our side, we're focused on solving the user experience and scaling the effort to make companies climate positive. But as in the VCM itself, in terms of the quality of credits and projects, the technology like remote sensing and IoT sensors, we're seeing this change towards better accountability on projects generally, and we're seeing an increase in the quality of these credits. Klima itself has a role to play in terms of the type of assets that it ends up supporting. And so I think we have a leadership role on that side. But, we fully anticipate the quality of projects to increase over time. But it also, starts with this transparency and structuring of the data of what's actually happening.
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you guys for the very detailed answer. Bullish as
Thanks,
well.
Rez.
Yeah. Looking forward to see what happens next.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want, I think it has been a while. Do you want to take one more question before we call it off?
Sure. I see Hack Infections up there.
Yeah.
No?
Let's invite him. Last question for the night or the day.
Hey, Hack. How you doing?
Oh. Off. Okay, he's back again. He got hacked. Hi, Hack. GMs.
My bad. I was trying to get this trying to find out to speaker mode. I can't hear myself. My question was,
good.
is there any way we can cement the circulating supply? Maybe not by like lowering or getting rid of the APY, but maybe like bagging it with BCT or MCO. No chance we can just, instead of earning Klima, you're earning these back carbon credits.
So
if I understand,
yeah.
Go ahead, Sai. No, after you.
Well, no, I was going to say is, Klima itself is a reserve currency backed by carbon assets. And so that means an increasing supply of carbon assets that'll be backing it, as well as a diversity of assets that'll be backing it. And so when you look at it, it's, when you bond for Klima, essentially you're using Klima to custody those carbon assets. And because of the liquidity in the market, you're always able to trade Klima for those carbon assets or USDC itself. And so that's primarily the idea. And so, if you look at it that way, as I mentioned, we have a modeling tool so that people can plug in their own variables into that tool to understand what their expected yield on Klima would mean in terms of lowering their climate positive pledge costs, say next year or the year after, et cetera. And so in that way there, by extension, you're earning yield on those carbon assets directly.
Oh, could the yield be in USDC? Maybe a quick conversion, maybe a back buy into a burn into a USD return on APY while holding Klima, so the price doesn't dilute and the price actually goes up, and you're just earning the equivalent in USDC.
So that's the beauty of DeFi in terms of being able to convert one asset to another. And so it really just comes down to how, it really comes down to, for us, focusing on building out the utility use case, helping organizations make climate positive pledges, and so that we see an increase in participation in the market. Thank you for the question.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Really appreciate it. Once again, shout out to the partnership team, Sai, Golan, Lito Yappa. You guys have been amazing, launching this Klima Infinity. And thank you to everyone here, the 150 plus climates has been here listening. Thank you very much for being here. Hope you have a good day. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And stay tuned for the announcements tomorrow, the next day, next week, and the steady stream of partnership announcements into the future. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Next month should be good too. Bye, everyone. GM again.